Would you rather have Josh Heupel, Nick Saban, or Kirby Smart if you're Tennessee, right, is the way that this breaks down, or what the H statement of the day? Is that the way this breaks down?
That is correct. If you're Tennessee.
Okay. Do you want to who would you take?
I take Josh Heupel.
Okay. Make your argument now. I want to hear it because I'm having trouble following you. Saban is old, yes, but Kirby Smart and Josh Heupel are in the same generational category. How can you not take Kirby Smart? Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. Want to hear your thoughts. Would you take Josh Heupel over Nick Saban or Kirby Smart right now? So I'm going to let you go, Caleb. I don't know how you're going to defend this, but I believe in you. You've done it before. Pull the fish out of the lake because this is one big bass.
There are two types of coaches. One that, and both they can be both be great X's and O's coaches. One is an X's and O's coach that maximizes his players. Okay, one is an X's and O's coach that knows how to make sure that can get the best players and knows how to put those best players in positions to win. The Jimmies and Joes. You know what I'm talking about, Dave, right? The Jimmies and Nick Saban and Kirby Smart are Jimmy's and Joe's coaches. They're good analytical coaches. They are great X's and O's head coaches, but they do it from the perspective of having the best players. So they can run a simplistic pro-style offense and focus on defense and the old defense wins championship narrative because they have the best players, and that's what you need to do when you have the best players. Then there are the coaches that have to be creative. And the reason they have to be creative is even if they can recruit at a high level, they can't recruit at a level where they will out-talent Georgia or Alabama or the top schools. Tennessee is in that position. So I think because Tennessee is in that position, they're just a step below, by the way. They're not Nebraska, where there's absolutely no talent, don't get me wrong, but they're certainly not Alabama or Georgia. So they have to be creative with their offense.
Okay, let me ask you this. So Kirby Smart couldn't do the same thing at Tennessee that he has been able to do at Georgia. Obviously, geography would go against him, but you say no.
Yeah, he would absolutely not be able to do the same thing at Tennessee that he does at Georgia. Not even come close.
Kirby Smart, part of the reason Georgia hired him so quickly, they didn't want to hire him that year. They wanted to wait another year. But South Carolina came calling. So this kind of provides.
And he wouldn't have been able to do it at South Carolina.
That's what I was going to ask you. This kind of provides a little bit of a backdrop to your argument. Would he have been able to do the same thing that he has done at Georgia at South Carolina? Nobody's saying that Smart would come to UT. We're just comparing the three coaches for our message.
No, because if you're going to be if you are a talent-based team, you should structure your team around defense, Dave. You agree, right? Because great defense, Jimmy disagrees with me, funny enough, on this, Jimmy Hyams, but I think great defense still beats great offense. This day in college football, if you put the perfect defense lined up against the perfect offense and they both know what each other's doing on a play, I think the defense wins still every time.
I would be with Jimmy and I would be offense because the rules changes. But 20 years ago, I would have loved what you're saying. I would have been at the Church of Calhoun. But right now, I think the rules changes have made it too difficult.
I still think it's defense even today.
It's at least debatable. It wasn't 20 years ago, right?
That's fair, but like look, Georgia's winning in Alabama. They're winning national championships because of their defense, and still to this day, they never have the most explosive offense in college football. They have the best defense consistently, and that's if you are a talent-based team, you build around defense. And Kirby Smart, I'm just going to say this: how will Muschamp do at South Carolina? He's a Nick Saban disciple, a defensive coach, just like Kirby Smart, right? And he failed miserably. How'd Jimmy Pruitt do at Tennessee? A Nick Saban disciple, defensive coach, failed miserably. Kirby Smart is on par with Jimmy Pruitt and Will Muschamp.
Okay, what about the kill you versus kumbaya approach? Okay, because basically Alabama and Georgia, they come to practice every day to kill each other. Those are the type of practices they have. They had them at Tennessee in the late 90s. There's more than one ways to skin a cat. I'm not saying that's the right or wrong way to do it.
Such a disturbing phrase. I hate that phrase.
What?
More than one way to skin a cat. Why would you ever skin a cat? What sociopath came up with that one?
Well, I guess I don't know, working at some sort of restaurant that serves cat secretly instead of the Kung Pao beef. But The kumbaya approach would probably be one of my least favorite things about the Josh Heupel program. So from the get, if Saban and Smart walked in the door, you'd have a tougher program. Am I wrong? A little less finesse?
Maybe, but the toughness comes from how they're designed. They're a defensive first team, both of them. You need that toughness. Philip Fulmer, even though Fulmer himself was an offensive coach, he structured a defensive oriented football team throughout his tenure, didn't he? He wanted to win ground and pound and dominate on defense. That's how Fulmer liked to win.
Yeah, but if he had the right quarterback, he'd get pretty excited. Kind of like the Joe Milton effect. You're like, ooh, I got a new sports car.
Yeah, I agree. He would. He absolutely would. But he still would like to. I mean, again, we know the reason Tennessee won the SEC title in '97 was because it wasn't just Peyton Manning. They found a running back that they could turn loose too, and Fulmer loved that. So I think they like. I think Kirby Smart and now when I say this, I don't think. Well, I actually will say this about Nick. I don't think Nick Saban likes coaching offense. I think Kirby Smart doesn't really mind offense to a certain degree. I think Nick Saban hates things like managing quarterbacks, Dave, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's his big Achilles heel. He does it well, but he doesn't like it. But you do need to have the more physical practices. Now, maybe the kumbaya approach, I think, has a lot to do with Josh Heupel's offense. Everybody has to be on the same page consistently. So there kind of has to be a bit of a kumbaya approach, I think, because you kind of need everybody going in the same direction to a certain degree. Now, you tell me, what was Steve Spurrier's teams like? Because we keep saying Heupel's this era Spurrier. I know Spurrier himself wasn't a kumbaya guy. He threw his visor and he lost his temper at players all the time, didn't he? But
no, but I would call them a respectable program. I mean, he didn't believe in hitting women, which some coaches allowed to go on. So I thought they were mostly good people as opposed to
like
mercenaries.
I'm talking about in practice. I'm talking about in practice, though. Did he do the Kirby Smart, let's all get physical, or was he more Josh Heupel?
I couldn't tell you because they sent me down there in 2001 and they wouldn't let any away media go to practice. So there you go. That is a complete waste of time.
But like, I mean, you saw Spurrier lose his temper on players on the sidelines, didn't you? On quarterbacks, particularly. I mean, he was not above lashing out and just railing into them.
I'm sure practice was difficult. Let's put it that way. I'm sure practice was difficult. I don't know that it was of the Saban or Smart ilk. I think it was probably somewhere in between.
Well, and then you brought up Fulmer. Okay, they may have encouraged that in practice, but we all saw Philip Fulmer in games, and it did not matter what a player did. There was always this, and always patting him on the hand
clapping. If you're on the audio platform, you can't see the hand clapping, but you can see it clearly thanks to Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Enjoy life when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination, ccteyes.com. ccteyes.com. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. Support our sponsors, cataract surgery and LASIK surgery by those that care. So do you think that Josh Heupel's the happy medium? He's a little too bit kumbaya for my taste, personally.
I don't know. I can't say happy medium. I just can say that I don't think Kirby Smart would have the same success at Tennessee. Now, Nick Saban would at this point, because let's be honest, Dave, Nick Saban has the level of credibility that he could go to Indiana and he would get number 1 recruiting classes at this point, wouldn't he? Just because players would want to play for him.
Yes. By the way, yeah, go ahead. Skinless cat's getting a lot of play.
The other phrase is I've heard people say in the past, I wouldn't give it no more thought than wringing a cat's neck. Why would you not give thought to wringing a cat's neck? Like,
I've wanted to wring a cat's neck before.
What'd you say?
I've wanted to wring a cat's neck before. You haven't had enough cats.
What I was going to say was that Nick Saban at Indy, like Nick Saban could go anywhere and would get number 1 recruiting classes at this point. He's got the cachet to do that. So that's a little bit of a different story. But for Nick Saban, he's old. I don't think people have the same credibility for Kirby Smart in that regard.
All right. So Royal Payne, who is anything but, because he's quite helpful, looked it up on our YouTube channel, what skinning a cat meant. So what does that mean? Can you read that off the screen there?
It says looked it up. And it's funny that somebody named Royal would do this because it's talking about the UK, but looked it up and they used to make fur coats out of cats. And the phrase came from the UK. By the way, I'm so college football oriented. I thought you were referring to Kentucky at that point, but
I did too for a second.
But the phrase came from the UK during a debate about the practice in the 1800s. Okay. I could see that. That's interesting. So they skinned cats to make fur coats. God, the inhumanity of people. people.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. Is it better to skin something that's pretty like a fox or something, or is it better to skin something like a cat where there's 5 million of them running away?
How about you just skin a sheep? The wool keeps you warmer anyway.
And they live. All right.
So Dave, let's get to this though. You haven't answered my question. Would you take Kirby Smart or Josh Heupel at Tennessee?
Yeah, right now? I don't think there's any question you would take Kirby Smart. I think he's the second.
You would take Kirby Smart over Josh Heupel at Tennessee?
Yeah. I would take Kirby Smart at Southern California. It's not a knock on Josh Heupel.
You think Kirby Smart could recruit at Tennessee the way he's done at Georgia? Even come close?
I mean, if Georgia close, though, Tennessee's probably won an SEC championship.
Wait,
yes, I think he could. I think he could with his ties. You got to remember, Josh Heupel had very little ties in recruiting. Kirby Smart has a ton of ties.
The only reason he might be able to recruit at Tennessee is if you somehow got Kirby Smart away from Georgia. Georgia might be stupid and go hire Drunken Ray Golf again, and then he'd be able to recruit at Tennessee. But if Georgia hires a coach that like has more than 2 peanuts for brain cells, then like
you just contradicted yourself big time. You said defense. Look at you. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about what you said. You said defense will win most of the time. Kirby Smart is by far a better defensive coach.
Yes, but defense only wins most of the time if you can get the talent to do it. I don't think Tennessee can get the talent to do it. They can't get what Georgia can get.
He gets so riled up.